Hey, I'm Rick SEBAK, and today is an exciting day for me and for a lot of us at WQED, because in the early morning hours today, we launched a new Kickstarter campaign to raise funds for a new set of shows. Now, we're going to take a half hour here, a quick half hour, and tell you about this project, what we hope to do, and we hope that this, along with a lot of stuff on social media, will convince you that you want to be part of this project. Now, we're calling this half hour Rickstarter. It's obviously a play on Kickstarter, Rickstarter, because if you go to rickstarter.org, you will be directed directly to our Kickstarter page. Rickstarter is the key. Now, we're not in the studio because we didn't want this to look too much like a pledge break. If it does, I apologize. The project that we're doing all of this for is a set of 6 programs that we're proposing to call NEBBY, Rick SEBAK'S Tales of Greater Pittsburgh. Now, we have a little bit of seed money from our friends at the BUYA Foundation, but we need your help to get to full funding. Now, I grew up in Bethel Park, so I've known the word NEBBY all my life. I was grown before I knew it was a local thing, a Pittsburgh word, NEBBY. It means nosy.
We had a great next door neighbor when I was growing up. Her name was, we called her Miss Betty, and she would always talk about the ladies she worked with and how NEBBY they were. And they were always in each other's business.
The first time I heard NEBBY, I think it was when I was on the bus.
Both of my parents used it a lot. They were both from Hazelwood, and they used variations like neb-nose and worse.
For me, the whole framework and the whole reference for NEBBY is the basic term neb.
NEBBY is not a word that was in my childhood. Coming up from Brooklyn, you were nosy.
My mom never said it. My mom was always like not a Pittsburghese person at all. But yeah, I've always known what NEBBY meant.
NEBBY is a great word because it's one more indication of our uniqueness.
I'm not going to name names, but neighbors on maybe either side of us were on the NEBBY side.
Curious, gossipy, but I don't know. I think it's kind of a fun word to use. I like to use the local Pittsburgh slang.
I've always known that NEBBY means to ask a lot of questions, and in these programs, that's what I do. I ask a lot of questions, and we share some of the answers with you. It's Pittsburgh, it's sort of an inside joke, and I think it works. Now, I've asked a lot of colleagues and friends who know my shows to come and talk about this project too, and we'll get to them. But first, I thought it might help to take a look at the video we made for the Kickstarter page. You can watch it at rickstarter.org, but we thought it will work here too. Yes, Pittsburgh. The city that I love and that I've been celebrating for almost 30 years on WQED. Actually, not just the city, but the whole area around Pittsburgh. What we used to call the tri-state area or greater Pittsburgh. And the truth is, we've really just started. We want to keep making videos about this area, its charms, its people, its neighborhoods, and its idiosyncrasies. So, I'm Rick SEBAK, this is my office, and this is a Kickstarter pitch. A sort of 21st century pledge break, if you will, an attempt by us to get you to support a new series of at least 6 programs that I'd like to produce here at WQED. We're calling this program NEBBY, Rick SEBAK'S Tales of Greater Pittsburgh. And we hope that it will be the kind of surprising, informative, delicious, slightly goofy and entertaining programs you've come to know over the years as the Pittsburgh History Series. Now, Pittsburghers know the word NEBBY. It's Pittsburghese, it means nosy. But I think it's a pertinent title for a series of shows where I'll have to ask a lot of questions of a lot of people. It's sort of an inside Pittsburgh thing, but it's easy to explain, and I think it'll work. Now, there are lots of topics I'd like to tackle. I'd like to do a show called Meet Pittsburgh, about chefs and butchers. I'd like to do a show about our bike trails. I'd also like to do a show about people who write books around here. And I have an urge to do a history of Route 88. In 1927, it went from Erie all the way to the West Virginia border. But I don't want to lock in all 6 topics before we begin. We'd like to be able to surprise ourselves and you, much as we did back when we did the program called It's Pittsburgh and a lot of other stuff. I mean, there are neighborhoods and lots of small businesses, from pizza ovens to printing companies to craft breweries, that we'd like to highlight and ask questions about. I think I might also like to incorporate some new outside contributors too, but we need your help in order to do that. Your contributions will help cover the cost to WQED, which I think are usually higher than most people expect. We've already gotten a really good kick from our friends at the Buell Foundation, but we promised them we'd try to find new funds this time, and I think this Kickstarter could be the very best way. And there's a long list of contribution levels with the rewards we'd like to share with you. Read it over. Contribute what you can. We want to get to work. If we reach our goal, we'll try to have programs ready before the end of this summer, with all 6 done by the end of 2017, so that at the start of 2018, we can put together the DVD and prepare the downloads of all the programs. If we go over goal, we'll make more. But the important thing is that you contribute now, because all the funds will go to this project. And although the goal is pretty high, I think we can make it. Thanks. So that's our project. I hope there hasn't been too much repetition already. But our big goal is $113,000, so we need your help and the help of all your friends. And you do that this time not by going to the phone, but by going to the computer and typing in Rickstarter.org, which will take you to Kickstarter.com. Now, I know not everybody knows what Kickstarter is, so I asked Sarika Feng from our interactive digital department if she could explain a bit.
Kickstarter is a website where you can ask for the public to help fund your idea. So say you have the next big invention, or the next hit album, or a theater production, or a television show. You can go to Kickstarter.com and create your own project page. Then people can learn about the project and pledge their money if they actually like the idea. So there's a catch. If you don't meet your fundraising goal by the deadline, you don't see any of that money. Zero, zilch, nada. And that's why we really, really need your help. Go to Rickstarter.org and learn more about Rick SEBAK'S project, NEBBY, Rick SEBAK'S Tales of Greater Pittsburgh.
Now, some people will remember Dave Hallowell from the old WQED series called Dave and Dave. He's been helping a ton on this Rickstarter campaign, and I thought he might help explain how you log on to our page.
Oh, this is so easy. Anyone who's ever done any sort of online shopping anywhere, you've already done this. Basically, we're just sending you via Rickstarter.org. You're going to land on your project for NEBBY. You get to look around that wonderful page. Rick SEBAK may be one of the greatest writers of our time. You don't believe me? Read everything that's there. Take a look at the video. Just enjoy it. It's really an extension of the Pittsburgh History Series. Talks about some actual history of Rick. A lot to do there. But while you're there, you'll also see on the other column all the various levels you can give at. There's all kind of fun and interesting, we're calling them thank you gifts, I guess, for participating and donating. So once you've looked around a bit, all you have to do is click the little green button that says back this project. That's it. That's just Kickstarter lingo for donate, contribute, buy, purchase, act now. That's what you want to do. Once you do that, there's a quick sign up process. You'll see it'll ask you again the levels. If you're not comfortable with any of the levels or don't want any of the gifts and just want to contribute, you can add in your own amount, anywhere from $1 to, I don't know, $1 million perhaps. That would be great. Once you do that, sends you to a little form, fill in your email, password. If you're a Facebook user already, it's even easier. You can log in via Facebook. It saves you a little extra time.
Now, we also met up with my friend Minette Seat, who produces Filmmakers Corner here on WQED, and she's been helping a lot too.
So let's say you're intrigued by this Kickstarter thing and you think you might want to contribute. When you go to the Kickstarter website, you're going to see a bunch of different levels. You can go as low as $13 or be the great big daddy and give as much as $5,000. And there are rewards that come with each level. Everything from pins and secret codes that let you watch video to dinners and lunches with Rick SEBAK. The important thing is when you decide to go to Kickstarter and you decide to pick a reward level, you should be motivated by how much you really want to be a part of this. We really can't do this show without you. So let me tell you some of the super NEBBY things and the levels you can participate at. We start off with, we know you're NEBBY. You and I both know you're NEBBY, and that's the $13 level. Then there's the It's Good to Be NEBBY level at $25, followed by the really NEBBY level at $50, and the Neb Knows, which is probably about the best thing you can be and you live in Pittsburgh, and that's the $100 level. We keep going up, and the next one is the Big Time NEBBY at $250, and it is also labeled as caffeinated. That's because you get a 1-pound bag of SEBAK'S roast from Zeke's Coffee as part of your reward package. Not only will you be able to watch these great TV shows, you'll be all wound up while you're doing it. So, personally, just between you and me, who can beat that? There's another $250 level, which is called the Discified level. Now, Discified may sound like you're going to go out and do some 70s dancing, but in fact, what it means is that you will get DVDs, more DVDs than you can shake a stick at. That's your reward. All of these things comes with rewards. You don't have to be Robin Hood to get a reward. You just have to go on Kickstarter. Check it out. There's all kinds of levels that fit your budget. And then there's the magnanimous level, where we know who you are and you know who you are, but you don't get a reward. You're just doing it for the good of the community. Aren't you a nice person? So let's say you're interested. Just go to Rickstarter.org, and that will connect you to the Kickstarter page for the Rickstarter.
I also asked my buddy Chris Fenimore to meet us in the strip, and I asked what he thought about this Kickstarter stuff. It's a bit like Pledge.
In a way, it's what you sort of hope when you pledge around a program. Usually, what you're hoping is that your money goes directly to that project. But as a matter of fact, when you pledge to public television, your money goes into sort of a general fund, out of which hopefully the thing that you were interested in gets some share. But this is really like direct. And I love that feeling of being able to say, I want to support this. I don't really care about that, but this is what I want to support, whether it's in public television or whatever it happens to be.
Over the years, I've been on many pledge breaks with Chris, and I've always been grateful about how he talks about my shows.
And it's just a little uncomfortable to say this while you're here, but there is a tremendous difference between your documentaries about things and other people's documentaries about things. You can't watch 2 minutes of a Rick Sebak program without knowing that it's a Rick Sebak program, even if you don't say anything in those 2 minutes, because they really represent us. The people who are watching these documentaries see themselves in them. And your shows always have a topic: Kennywood memories, things that aren't there anymore, downtown, all of those wonderful documentaries that you've made into a sort of a library, a sort of you call it a scrapbook of living in Pittsburgh. But it's always the people. And I think the reason why your documentaries are so noticeably yours is that whatever it is, your talent, your trick, your whatever it is that people feel comfortable telling you their stories.
My first program at WQED was a half-hour documentary about Pittsburgh as the organ transplant capital of the world, which it was in 1987. The program was called Transplant Town. And I didn't know yet how goofy I could be, but I used only organ music in the show, and some folks got the joke. Then my first hour-long documentary was about our three rivers. We called it The Mon, the Al, and the O. In the summer of '88, we shot 25 days at our beloved local amusement park and made a show called Kennywood Memories. In 1989, we started calling these programs the Pittsburgh History Series, starting with Holy Pittsburgh, about houses of worship in our town. In 1990, we made a very popular and much imitated show called Things That Aren't There Anymore, about long-gone beloved pieces of Pittsburgh. We made more programs about Pittsburgh, but in 1992, we also got funding from the old PPTN, Pennsylvania Public Television Network, and made a show about how cool and funky and interesting our whole state could be. That was the Pennsylvania Roadshow, followed the next year by a celebration of Pennsylvania cuisine titled Pennsylvania Diners and Other Roadside Restaurants. When the PBS network agreed to broadcast Pennsylvania Diners to the whole country, it got unexpectedly good ratings across America, and we started making national programs, like Shore Things and an ice cream show that featured Bassett's Ice Cream in Philadelphia's Reading Terminal Market, as well as the Ice Cream School at Penn State, and Kerber's Dairy in North Huntingdon. So by the late 1990s, we were making local documentaries about neighborhoods like Pittsburgh's Strip District. There was North Side Story, South Side, something about Oakland. And we made national programs too, like a hot dog program and great old amusement parks, and a flea market documentary. In 2002, we put out a Christmas special called Happy Holidays in Pittsburgh. And lots of other PBS stations across the country aired it because it highlighted all the many holidays that were being celebrated at the end of that year. As the 21st century got rolling, we made a number of Pittsburgh history programs, things we've made about manufacturing in Western Pennsylvania, It's the Neighborhoods, What Makes Pittsburgh Pittsburgh, Underground Pittsburgh, and Invented, Engineered, and Pioneered in Pittsburgh. For PBS, we put together more shows celebrating aspects of American culture, Sandwiches That You Will Like, a program about unusual buildings, a cemetery special, To Market to Buy a Fat Pig, and a ride along the Lincoln Highway that let us celebrate again a highway that goes across our state and across the country. We made a Pittsburgh show about things right beside the river, and for 3 years, from 2010 till 2013, we had a show called It's Pittsburgh and a lot of other stuff. We covered topics from Pittsburgh's legendary bicycle ride called the Dirty Dozen, to the war between North Park versus South Park, to the insides of the Squirrel Hill tunnels. In 2013, we also made a breakfast special for PBS, and the next year, a sequel, Breakfast Special 2, Revenge of the Omelets. We also put together 25 Things I Like About Pittsburgh, and in 2014, A History of Pittsburgh in 17 Objects. We had made a documentary called Downtown Pittsburgh back in 1992, and in 2015, we decided there were enough new changes to require a return to downtown Pittsburgh. We also made a national special for PBS in 2015 called A Few Great Bakeries, including Minerva Bakery and McKeesport, and another celebration called A Few Good Pie Places that featured the coconut cream from Grant Bar in Millvale. And who knows what will come next? We just hope there will be a lot more delicious documentaries. So one thing I think you can learn to love about Pittsburgh is its unpredictability. You know, it's balmy and subtropical one day, and the next day it's freezing cold and snowing. But I love that about Pittsburgh. And even after years of doing research in neighborhoods all around town, I still find things that delight and surprise me. And we want to try and take advantage of that in these new shows. Now, we say we're going to try and do 6, and I have lots of ideas, but I don't want to lock in all the topics, because we want to be able to take advantage of surprises. You know, when we used to do the program called It's Pittsburgh and a lot of other stuff, we made a program called Joys of Millvale that turned out really nice, but it was totally not planned. We were supposed to go shoot a story in McKees Rocks. Somebody got sick, we had to change plans and postpone, and my cameraman Frank, because we were shooting in Millvale, said, let's do some more Millvale stories. It was a surprise, but we learned a lot, including about the flood.
The 04 was the worst flood we've had. That was worse than the 36 flood.
September 17, 2004.
It was during Millvale Days, one of our real big events. It came really quick. I was upstairs in my office. Somebody ran up the steps and said, oh my God, there's a tidal wave coming down the street.
Yeah, off of Gertie's Run.
Gertie's Run is right underneath here.
When he came in, I was walking in the waiting area. I had water up to my knees. I said, maybe it's time to go.
We're standing here with all the merchandise on the floor trying to keep our balance.
I knew when the water was over the parking meters, we were in trouble.
People don't realize that a flash flood, the water comes bellowing down the street is what happens.
We helped take stuff out of the cellar while the water was rising.
There was 5 feet of water out there.
The water was higher than the counter. It's 16 feet from the basement up.
The water was about 4 foot in here.
It was up underneath, right underneath that shelf.
But that high there.
We had 4 foot of water all through the main stores. We lost millions of records, millions of CDs.
When the water went down, we were shocked to come down and see what we saw.
And when we came down here and saw what we saw, it was just, you just wanted to cry.
Everything was gone.
It was covered in mud.
I like to say we put down our spatulas and we picked up hammers.
We had to rebuild everything from scratch, tear down all the walls, tear out the floors.
And people they would stop and say, you have to open. They made you feel like you had to.
People put money in our mailboxes.
We did what we could do, and we worked until we slowly got it back to one piece again.
The bar is the only thing left from the flood, before the flood. Everything else is new.
The soda fountain was still the only original piece.
And when it comes down to it, it's the community, it's the people that work with me. I'm very, very fortunate.
Those tales of the flood, that video from the second floor of the hobby shop, all that was unexpected. That's why I want to leave some wiggle room for the topic of these NEBBY programs. We want to be surprised. You know, we went back to Millvale when we did a national program called A Few Good Pie Places, because on that shoot, we were surprised to find out that Mr. Frank Rusemberka makes pies every morning at the Grant Bar.
My mom and dad started this place in 1933. My father and mother came from Czechoslovakia in the late 20s. My family had 7 children, and everybody worked. I was working when I was 6. Me and my brothers ran the business for a long time, and we were always missing desserts, so I started making apple pies.
When we got here, I'm looking on the menu, and it says world famous pies, so how can you not get a pie? A place that says world famous.
This is an institution in the borough of Millvale. It's an institution for many reasons, one of them being these pies.
I get pie every time I'm here.
But the coconut pie, last time we missed it. We waited till we were finished to order and they were out. So we ordered dessert first.
We know Frank, and Frank makes them fresh every day.
It's a good, basic, traditional crust that I like. I don't want to change it. Lard, flour, salt, water. But I make cream pies, so I need a crust that stays crunchy, because it might sit for 3-4 hours, and with my recipe, I need a thin pie crust, and I need it cooked well. I just been doing it for so long, sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. I just do it, thousands.
Well, we haven't made thousands of programs, but we've made a lot. And now we're making this unusual appeal. We want you to go to Rickstarter.org, which will take you to Kickstarter. When you're there, you're going to decide how much you can contribute, and you'll help us make our goal, which means we can make more programs.
I remember the first Rick SEBAK shows I watched, and I thought they were really special because they shamelessly devoted themselves to something about Pittsburgh.
But I do remember you coming here, and then all of a sudden we started to see these documentaries that were Pittsburgh oriented. They weren't just about topics, they were about topics as they applied to Pittsburgh.
The first time I ever heard of Rick SEBAK or saw a Rick SEBAK documentary was when I first started researching Pittsburgh neighborhoods. And I just went on YouTube. I haven't ever actually seen a Rick SEBAK documentary on TV. I guess my generation, we kind of tend to lean more toward YouTube and streaming.
Well, this is going to surprise you. Kennywood Memories. And I'm sure 999 people out of 1,000 have probably said Kennywood Memories. I think it's just one of those rites of passage for all Pittsburghers, no matter what age you're at, because if you're a kid and you're watching it, you're identifying with the kids in the show. If you're older, you're sort of looking at the nostalgia. So for me, it was that show, hands down.
I also like the way that people shamelessly are inspired by the stories they see in a Rick SEBAK show to run up and tell you what your next Rick SEBAK show should be about. So everybody's got this little filmmaker trapped in their head somewhere, and you give them an excuse to be that person.
And so I just Googled facts about Pittsburgh neighborhoods, and 25 things about Pittsburgh came up. And I said, oh, this is great. So all of these segments were broken down on YouTube, and I started watching the one about Andy Warhol's grave. And when I first started working there, I had to go and visit the grave, but I actually didn't, don't tell them. But I watched Rick Sebak and Eric Scheiner, the director of the Warhol Museum, go to the grave, and it was like I was there myself.
In Pittsburgh, we know that there's normally only like 2 degrees of separation. Everybody knows somebody that somebody else knows. And I am willing to bet an egg sandwich that if people watch all of your documentaries, there'd be somebody that they know.
It's the people, it's the neighborhoods. I think it's this part of the world too. And you know, I want to make a special plea to people who used to live in Pittsburgh who've moved away, because you're some of the most loyal viewers and purchasers and sharers of these programs. We want you to go to rickstarter.org too. That'll take you to Kickstarter. Pledge a donation. Help us make our goal.
Well, WQED, most people might not know, is just about to celebrate their 63rd birthday. PBS, in the Public Broadcasting Act, just turned 50 this year. So way before PBS, there was WQED. So we were sort of the first community-sponsored television station in the country. And fundraising for such a thing was a novel idea. People went door to door. I mean, this was something different, groundbreaking, a new approach to community-sponsored television.
Given the mass approach of this, that's what Kickstarter is great about. It reaches out to thousands of people, as opposed to sitting on a street corner on a soapbox and with a tin can, you know, because then you only get the people who walk by. But on a Kickstarter, thousands of people walk by, and you hope that if everybody were to give some small amount, you would easily get to those goals, which seem, you know, enormous if you were to, you know, just try to get a room full of people to raise that kind of money. The room is much bigger now.
It's super easy. All you have to do is go to rickstarter.org, and that'll redirect you to our Kickstarter page. Log on and pledge as much money as you want to NEBBY, Rick SEBAK'S Tales of Greater Pittsburgh. And you're done. That's it. Easy.
So we hope we've enticed you a little bit, and if you'll let me, I'll recap. First of all, if you haven't done so yet, we want you to go to rickstarter.org and become part of this Kickstarter campaign. Number 2, it's our first day, and anyone who's ever been involved with the Kickstarter knows the first day is the most important. So if you can do it right now, that would be the best. If you have already made a contribution, please tell all your friends, call them up, go online, post on Facebook, tweet about it, tell us on Instagram. And if you use the hashtag Rickstarter, it'll help link your comments to all of ours, and we can keep them all together. Now the big thing is, we want to do these 6 programs called NEBBY, Rick SEBAK'S Tales of Greater Pittsburgh. If by some luck we go over our goal, we'll do more than 6, but the programs are what's most important. Also, thanks for watching. And thanks to all my friends who've helped with this half hour of Rick starting. And if you've made a contribution, huge thanks. This could be great.